Get back behind the line now. You're obstructing traffic. I didn't do anything. Let go of me. Get back behind the line now. You are obstructing an active scene.
What are you talking about? I didn't do anything.
Of all things, a patrol car rolled up fast, siren cutting out mid. Officer Trent Riker stepped out, sunglasses reflecting Marcus's face back at him. Step back from the curb, Riker said, hand already resting on his holster. Marcus blinked. I'm waiting for the light. Riker moved closer. You talking back, son? The air went thin. Pedestrians slowed, a few raising phones. Marcus's voice stayed level. I said, I'm waiting. You're out of line. The officer's jaw tightened. Out of line. You people always. He shoved Marcus hard, sending him stumbling off the curb. Tires screech. A bus horn split the air as Marcus caught himself inches from the street. Gasps. Someone shouted. Cameras flashed. Marcus straightened, heart hammering. He fixed his gaze on the officer cold, unflinching. Do you know who I am? Riker sneered. Another loudmouth who doesn't know his place. Then the dispatcher's voice cracked through his radio. All units, stand by. Mayor Hale en route to Civic Plaza for press conference. Repeat, Mayor Hale en route. Riker froze. The crowd didn't. Phones recorded. Murmurs rose like a tide. Marcus didn't move. Sweat slid down his temple. The light changed to green. For one long, brutal second, nobody breathed. And then the mayor smiled. Not kindly, not forgivingly, just a small, knowing curve that said the world had just shifted. The bus roared past, and the officer finally realized what he'd done. Heat rose off the pavement like breath. The afternoon pressed down heavy, the kind of humidity that glued shirts to backs and made tempers short. Marcus Hale walked the narrow edge of Jefferson Avenue, leather briefcase swinging loosely at his side. City Hall loomed 5 blocks away, glass panels glinting in the sun. He'd spent the morning discussing a community housing bill, a quiet step toward equity. Progress moved slow, but it moved. The crosswalk light blinked red. He stopped. A patrol car idled across the street. Then, with a sudden roar, it rolled forward and jerked to a stop inches from his knees. Officer Trent Riker stepped out, tall buzzcut, the kind of man who believed posture was power. Back off the curb, he barked. Marcus frowned. It's red. Didn't ask what color the light was. Marcus tilted his head. Then what's the issue? Riker took a step closer, eyes hidden behind mirrored shades. You look nervous. I'm late for a meeting. That's so. Riker's hand hovered near his holster, not grabbing, just reminding. People slowed, phones lifted. You're obstructing traffic, Riker said. I'm standing on a public sidewalk. Riker's nostrils flared. You giving me attitude. I'm giving you words, Marcus replied, calm, clipped. That's legal, last I checked. The officer moved faster than thought, palm slamming into Marcus's chest. The world tilted. His shoe slipped on the curb's edge, briefcase flying, horns blinked. The hiss of brakes cut through everything. A bus screeched to a stop inches away. Gasps rippled. Someone shouted, Hey, you can't do that. Marcus's pulse hammered. He straightened, breathing sharp, trying not to show the shake in his hands. Riker adjusted his belt, voice rising. Keep your hands where I can see them. Marcus's jaw locked. Officer, he said, quiet but firm. You just assaulted me. Step back, sir. Marcus repeated. That's new. Riker hesitated. The phones kept recording. A voice in the crowd murmured, Ain't that the mayor? The officer blinked. What? Marcus met his gaze, steady, unblinking. You're addressing the mayor of this city. The silence hit like a wave. Then, from Riker's radio, the dispatcher's voice. Mayor Hale en route to Civic Plaza for live address at 2 p.m. Recognition. Panic. Riker's hand dropped from his belt. His throat bobbed. Marcus stepped closer. You just made your own headline, he said. The bus engine growled behind him. Cameras flashed. The smell of burnt rubber hung in the air. Riker's mouth opened, but nothing came out. And in that silence, the kind that carries, Marcus turned toward the flashing phones and said, Everyone, keep recording. The officer's composure shattered. Somewhere down the street, a siren wailed, not for him this time, but for the system that had just exposed itself by nightfall. The clip had been uploaded, downloaded, and dissected in every corner of the internet. Marcus watched from his office window as camera crews camped outside City Hall. Flashbulbs popped in the humid dark like lightning bugs. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing since noon. Statements, apologies, threats, demands. He hadn't said a word publicly yet. Across from him, Chief of Staff Dana Morgan paced the rug. Marcus, you have to get in front of this before it gets weaponized. Every network is running it. The union's already framing Riker as the one being provoked. Marcus turned from the window. Provoked by what? Standing still, Dana exhaled. They're calling it a misunderstanding. He almost laughed, a dry, humorless sound. A misunderstanding is spilling coffee, not shoving a man into traffic. A knock. His communications director, Will, slipped in, holding a tablet. Sir, you should see this. The tablet played a segment from a local station. Breaking. Officer claims he feared for his safety during altercation with Mayor Hale. The anchor's tone was polished neutrality. The guest panel wasn't. A retired sergeant said, "You can't blame an officer for reacting under pressure. We don't know the mayor's body language." Another guest chimed in. Optics matter. Mayor Hale should have de-escalated. Marcus shut it off. De-escalated. His voice dropped lower. By not existing. Dana rubbed her forehead. We knew this was coming. Optics are politics. Politics are survival. I'm not negotiating my humanity. Silence settled, heavy as concrete. Outside, a crowd had gathered, chanting his name. Some held signs, justice for the mayor, justice for all. Others waved phones, streaming live. Dana looked out the window. The people are ready to fight for you. Marcus shook his head. They're fighting for themselves. I'm just a mirror. Will cleared his throat. Prest wants a statement by morning. City Council's drafting one for you to approve. Says you forgive the officer and want to move forward in unity. Marcus stared at him. They want me to forgive before there's accountability. Guess, sir, for stability. He turned back to the window, where police lights painted the plaza blue and red. Stability for who? No one answered. The office lights hummed. Somewhere below, someone shouted his name through a megaphone. Dana broke the silence. If you go scorched earth, they'll come after everything. Your funding, your bills, your family. They'll find something to bury you in. Marcus sat down, voice level. If silence keeps me safe, it keeps others in danger. That's not leadership. She hesitated. Then what's your play? He didn't respond immediately. His eyes were fixed on the glowing skyline, the faint outline of the precinct tower miles away. When he finally spoke, it was measured. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling a press conference. No scripts, no council drafts. I'll speak as the man who got shelved, not the title they're trying to protect. Will looked uneasy. That'll ignite the union. Good, Marcus said. They've been asleep too long. Dana met his eyes, searching. Then, you'd better be ready for what wakes up. The next morning, Civic Plaza overflowed. Reporters swarmed the steps. Microphones jutted toward the podium like spears. The crowd pulsed with energy, some cheering, others shouting slurs, muffled under the noise. Marcus approached the podium. Cameras clicked. His tie was dark blue, his expression steady. I wasn't attacked because I'm the mayor, he began. I was attacked because I'm a black man in America. A ripple of murmurs spread through the press pit. He continued, voice calm but sharp. If that officer didn't know who I was, it's because this system only sees one thing when it looks at us, and it's not authority, it's threat. Some reporters scribbled, others just stared. This isn't about one officer, he said. It's about every report that disappeared, every complaint that went nowhere, every voice that was told to calm down. I won't calm down. The plaza erupted. Cheers, chants, curses, all colliding. Marcus stepped back from the mic, letting the noise fill the space. From a few yards away, Dana watched him, eyes tight with worry. She could already feel the pushback forming calls from donors, political allies, the union president himself. But Marcus stood unmoved, the heat glinting off his skin like armor. When the shouting faded enough for one last line, he leaned forward. Justice doesn't come from fear, he said. It comes from truth, and the truth is coming. He left the podium to a wall of flashbulbs and a single thought, repeating in his mind, they wanted quiet. I just gave them a reckoning. By sunrise, the police union had declared war. A press conference convened at headquarters, banners reading, "Protect those who protect us," flapped behind the podium. Officer Riker wasn't present, but his absence carried weight, a silent martyr in the narrative being written for him. Union President Carl Dempsey, silver-haired and stone-faced, addressed the cameras. Officer Riker acted according to his training in a high-stress situation. He said, "We urge the public not to judge before knowing all the facts. Our officers are under attack, not just on the streets, but in the court of public opinion." The crowd clapped. Local stations aired it live. In City Hall, Marcus watched from the conference room screen. Dana paced behind him. Classic playbook, she muttered. Victimize the aggressor. Frame accountability as persecution. Marcus's gaze didn't leave the screen, and it works because people want to believe their protectors are infallible. On the broadcast, Dempsey leaned closer to the mic. The mayor's inflammatory remarks yesterday put our officers in danger, he said. We call for restraint and leadership that doesn't divide our city. Marcus clicked off the TV. The silence that followed was sharp. Leadership that doesn't divide. He repeated slowly. Translation. Leadership that doesn't challenge them. Will entered with a folder thick with documents. You need to see this. Inside were internal disciplinary files, blacked out names, missing pages, signatures that looked copied. He slid one page across. Rikers had 3 excessive force complaints, all dismissed. Marcus flipped through, jaw tight. How'd you get these? A contact in the department, quiet one. Dana scanned the pages. This is systemic cover-up. You release it, the union will come for blood. Marcus's voice was steady. Then we make it impossible for them to hide. That afternoon, the mayor summoned the chief of police, Raymond Torres, to his office. Torres arrived late, posture stiff, uniform immaculate. He greeted no one, Chief Marcus said, gesturing to a seat. We need to discuss, Officer Riker. Torres sat but didn't relax. He's been placed on paid leave pending investigation. Paid leave. Marcus's tone cut the air. After assaulting a citizen in broad daylight, Torres folded his hands. Protocol, sir. Protocol is how injustice survives bureaucracy. Torres's eyes flickered. Mayor Hale, with respect, you're politicizing this. The union's breathing down everyone's neck. We can't afford chaos. Marcus leaned forward. We already have chaos, Chief. It's just been hidden under uniforms and paperwork. Torres didn't respond. Dana watched from the corner, arms crossed. Will typed quietly, documenting every word. Marcus pressed. Were you aware of Riker's previous complaints? Torres hesitated. I can't discuss personnel matters. Then I'll discuss them publicly. The chief's voice hardened. You'd tear apart the department. Marcus stood. Maybe it needs tearing. A long silence stretched between them. Torres rose slowly, eyes cold. You don't understand how fragile this city is. I do, Marcus said. That's why I'm holding it accountable. Torres turned for the door. You're making enemies you can't afford. Marcus's voice followed him. Only the kind that needed daylight. Later, as night settled, Marcus sat alone in his office. The plaza outside was quiet for the first time in days. His reflection hovered in the window, tired, unshaken. On his desk, the leaked files lay open, the truth glowing under the lamplight. He whispered to himself, almost a vow. They built their shield out of lies. I'll make it transparent. In the darkness, his phone buzzed. A new message, no name, just text. You're not safe. Back off before someone gets hurt. He read it twice, thumb hovering over delete. Then he locked the screen and turned back to the documents. The war had officially gone. Underground morning broke with static in the air, a sense that the city itself was waiting to exhale. The headline hit before sunrise. Mayor Hale's attacker, linked to prior abuse, complaints records suppressed by department. Marcus stared at the glowing screen on his phone, the article's details scrolling like a fuse burning towards something irreversible. A local investigative journalist, Lena Ortiz, had published everything, copies of the redacted files, testimony from anonymous officers, and internal memos pointing straight to the chief's office. Dana burst into his office, phone pressed to her ear. She went live with it at 6 a.m. It's trending nationally. Marcus closed his phone. You think she used our documents? She had to, Dana said, which means someone on our side leaked them to her directly. He gave a small nod. Good. Dana blinked. Good. Marcus, this could blow back on you. If it looks like you coordinated a media leak, let it. He stood, adjusting his cuffs. Truth isn't supposed to be tidy. By midday, the city roared. Protesters filled the downtown core, carrying posters of Riker's mugshot beneath the words, accountability now. Others wore t-shirts that said Mayor Hale stood up. So we could stand. News anchors hovered outside precinct doors. Reporters demanded answers. The police union headquarters shut its gates and deployed security. Inside City Hall, the mayor's communications team scrambled to manage the storm. Will slammed his laptop shut. Every network wants you on camera, but the council's calling an emergency session. They're panicking about public instability. Marcus poured coffee unbuffed. Instability's just what the truth looks like before people adjust. Dana pinched the bridge of her nose. You're going to burn every political ally you've got left. Then I'll rebuild with better ones. She met his eyes. You're not a martyr, Marcus. You're a mayor. You can't run the city if they strip your power. He set the cup down. If power depends on silence, it's not worth keeping. The council chamber was standing room only. Cameras lined the back wall. Chief Torres sat stiffly near the center, jaw locked. Union President Dempsey loomed beside him. Marcus entered to a wave of whispered tension. The council chair tapped the gavel. Mayor Hale, we appreciate your attendance. We're here to address the current crisis of confidence between the police and your administration. Marcus took his seat, voice calm. Confidence was lost the moment truth was buried. Dempsey leaned forward, mic crackling. With respect, Mayor, you're fanning flames that leak endangered officers. You're creating division where there was stability. Marcus's tone was precise. Division doesn't start when people speak, it starts when people are silenced. Torres finally spoke. Those files were classified for internal review. You compromised due process. Marcus turned toward him. You mean you buried it? The room erupted, reporters shouting, council members gaveling for order. Marcus didn't flinch. Chief Torres, did you authorize the suppression of misconduct records for Officer Riker and others under investigation? Torres glared. I won't answer baseless accusations. Baseless. Marcus's voice sharpened. Then explain why those records matched the ones leaked by your department. Dana, watching from the side, saw something shift. Not just fear, but calculation behind Torres's eyes. Dempsey interjected. You're turning this into a witch hunt. Marcus leaned into the mic. No, I'm turning it into daylight. The room fell silent. Cameras clicked in the stillness. Hours later, Marcus met with Lena Ortiz in a quiet cafe near the Capital District. She wore a denim jacket, pen tapping against her notebook. You didn't leak it directly, she said, but someone close to you did. Marcus sipped his coffee. Maybe the truth has its own way of escaping. Lena smiled faintly. They'll come after me next. They already are. He slid a folded note across the table, a list of anonymous tip lines, legal contacts, and one trusted judge. Don't stop. They're counting on fatigue. She studied him for a moment. You really think this can change anything? Marcus's eyes drifted to the window, where a crowd marched past, holding truth as public property signs. Change starts when someone stops asking for permission. Lena nodded. Then I guess we just stopped. They parted without handshakes. Cameras followed her as she left, but Marcus stayed seated, watching the street reflection shimmer against his cup. For the first time in days, he allowed himself a breath. But when he returned to City Hall that evening, the doors were locked from the inside. Security detail doubled. Warnings whispered through earpieces. Dana met him at the entrance, face pale. There was a breach. Someone hacked your emails. They've got personal messages, your son's school records, your old campaign donors, even family photos. Marcus froze. They're retaliating, Dana said quietly. They're not trying to defend Riker anymore. They're trying to break you. He looked past her toward the skyline, where red police lights flickered like angry veins through the night. His voice was low. Then they've already lost. The morning began with silence, not peace, but the hollow stillness before damage reveals itself. Marcus's phone was dead when he woke. Not live after dead, wiped. His email access revoked. His home Wi-Fi disconnected. When he tried calling Dana, the call failed. A text blinked on the screen from an unknown number. You wanted transparency. Here it comes. He drove himself to City Hall, tires cutting through the thin gray mist of dawn. The building felt different to quiet. Two reporters waited by the steps, eyes sharp, mics hidden in sleeves. Mayor Hale, any comment on the leaked emails? One called. Marcus stopped cold. What emails? The reporter raised the phone. On screen flashed the headline. Leaked messages show Mayor Hale, coordinated media smear against police. Fabricated screenshots, false quotes, enough to poison doubt. He forced himself to keep walking. Inside, Dana was already waiting, surrounded by shattered comm aides talking fast, screens flashing alerts, phones ringing unanswered. It's coordinated, she said. Fake messages. They're claiming you pressured Lena Ortiz to leak internal documents for political gain. Marcus exhaled slowly. Of course they are. Will approached, pale. There's more. Your son's school went into lockdown this morning. Threat call, anonymous. Everything in him went still. He's safe, Physically, yes. Dana's voice softened, stripped of her usual sharpness. This isn't just political anymore. Marcus, it's personal. They want to make you afraid to keep going. He looked at the chaos around him, the nervous aides whispering by the doorway. Then they don't know me at all. That evening, the mayor's SUV sat vandalized outside his home, windows shattered, doors spray-painted LIAR in dripping red. The police arrived hours later, slow, reluctant. No arrests, no witnesses. Marcus stood on the curb, glass crunching under his shoes. His wife Angela stood beside him, arms folded tight across her chest. "This isn't worth it," she said quietly. "You're making enemies that don't play fair." "I'm not playing at all," he said. She turned toward him, eyes sharp. "You think you can fix centuries of rot in one term? You're one man. They'll destroy you, and they won't stop there. They'll come after us." He looked at her, the streetlight reflecting in his eyes like steel. "If I step back, they win twice. Once when they silenced me, and again when I start believing they can't be beaten." Angela shook her head, voice trembling. "Marcus, I can't keep explaining to our son why people hate his father on the news." He didn't answer. The sound of camera shutters echoed down the block. Neighbors filming, reporters lingering. Angela went inside. The door closed like a final punctuation. Hours later, Marcus met Dana in the mayor's underground office. The place felt like a bunker. No windows, only screens glowing with static and muted headlines. "They're spinning every angle," Dana said. "Talk radio's calling you corrupt. Online bots flooding comments with racial slurs. The unions petitioning for your resignation." Marcus read the scrolling ticker across one screen. Hale administration imploding under scandal. He spoke quietly. "They want to drown the truth in noise. Then make them hear something louder." He turned to her, eyes tired but unwavering. "What do you have in mind?" She slid a USB drive across the desk. "Whistleblower footage from an officer inside Internal Affairs. It shows Torres meeting with Dempsey, discussing how to suppress Riker's prior complaints." Marcus stared at it. "Illegal recording. Anonymous source," she said. "No fingerprints on your end. But if it leaks, it'll tear the department open." He turned the drive in his hand, the plastic warm from her grip. "And it'll paint a target the size of the city on my back." Dana met his gaze. "It's already there." He pocketed the drive. "Prepare a statement. Tomorrow we go public." That night, Marcus sat alone in the living room. The house was dark except for the faint flicker of a muted news broadcast. His son's school photo sat on the table beside a stack of legal folders. He picked it up. The boy's smile caught mid-laugh, and set it back down carefully, as if movement itself might break something sacred. His phone buzzed. A voicemail. He pressed play. "Mayor Hale." The voice rasped, low, distorted. "Mail. You should have taken the deal. You talk tomorrow, and you'll regret it." Clicky played it twice, then again, memorizing the cadence, the cowardice in it. When he finally spoke, it was to no one but himself. "They've mistaken fear for surrender." He turned off the lights, left the house, and drove straight to City Hall. At dawn, the city woke to a new video posted from the mayor's verified account. The caption read, "For those who still believe truth has no defenders." The footage showed Chief Torres and Dempsey in a private room, time-stamped and clear. Torres said, "Bury it. We can't afford another scandal." Dempsey replied, "The mayor's soft, he'll fold if we pressure him right." The video went viral within minutes. By mid-morning, the union offices were under federal scrutiny. News crews circled the precinct. Hashtags flooded the net. Hashtag shield broken. Hashtag justice in uniform. Marcus sat in his office as chaos unfolded, expression unreadable. Dana entered with a tremor in her voice. "You did it. It's out." He didn't look up. "No, it's only begun." Outside, sirens wailed, not chasing him this time, but circling their own. The hearing chamber was built for order. Pale oak walls, polished microphones, a ceiling that swallowed echoes. But this morning, it pulsed with noise. Reporters jostled for seats. The city's eyes were all here. Marcus Hale entered through the side door, escorted by his counsel and 2 aides. His tie was black, expression colder than the marble floor. Across the room, Officer Trent Riker sat stiff in uniform, a faint smirk trying to mask fear. Chief Torres and Carl Dempsey occupied the opposite table, their lawyers whispering frantically. The lead investigator adjusted her glasses. "This proceeding will determine whether Officer Riker's actions violated policy and whether departmental leadership obstructed justice in handling prior complaints." The cameras whirred, The entire city was watching. Marcus's attorney leaned toward him. You don't need to speak. Just let the evidence play. Marcus shook his head. If I stay silent now, I become what they wanted. The first witness, a woman in plain clothes, approached the stand. Her badge number had been blurred in the court feed for safety. She spoke softly. I filed a complaint against Riker 2 years ago. Said he slammed a suspect into a wall without cause. The investigator asked, what happened to that report? It disappeared. Captain said it didn't meet internal criteria. Did you later learn the suspect was hospitalized? Yes, was Chief Torres informed. She hesitated, eyes flicking toward him. He was the one who told me to let it go. A collective murmur filled the room. Torres shifted in his seat, jaw tightening. Dempsey's hand tapped the table once, a warning. Marcus didn't move. His gaze stayed on the chief, quiet and relentless. The next video clip played on the monitors, the leaked footage Dana had delivered. Torres's voice was clear. Bury it. We can't afford another scandal. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The investigator paused playback, looking to Torres. Chief, would you like to clarify the context of that remark? Torres leaned forward. That video was illegally obtained and manipulated. Marcus spoke for the first time. Was it manipulated before or after you said the words? The room froze. Cameras swung toward him. The investigator gave a curt nod. Mayor Hale, you are not obligated. Marcus cut her off. I'm aware, but I am responsible. I'm the one who stood in that street when your officer shoved me, and I'm the one who learned that moment wasn't an accident, it was policy. Riker's smirk vanished. Marcus continued, voice sharp but steady. This isn't about me. It's about every complaint that vanished, every bruise labeled a misunderstanding. You buried truth under procedure, and you called it protocol. The investigator motioned for quiet, but Marcus didn't stop. I was lucky, he said. I walked away. Others didn't. You think this hearing is about one shove. It's about what that shove represents, an entire system trained to believe power justifies violence. The silence that followed was total. Even the press held still. The investigator cleared her throat, noted for record. Torres's lawyer rose. Objection to the mayor's commentary, irrelevant and inflammatory. Marcus's reply was calm. Truth often is. During recess, Marcus stood in the hallway, leaning against the cold stone wall. Dana joined him, eyes scanning the crowd of reporters through the glass. You just made enemies on every floor of the department, she said quietly. They were already there, Marcus said. She studied him. You don't look angry. I'm past angry. I'm documenting. When the session resumed, Riker finally took the stand. He straightened his tie, gaze darting between the audience and the camera. I felt threatened. The man at the crosswalk refused lawful commands. I didn't know he was the mayor, the investigator asked. Did he make any threatening gestures? No, ma'am, but his tone. Marcus's attorney interjected. His tone justified assault. Riker faltered. I acted according to my training, Marcus whispered. That's the problem. The investigator pressed further. Do you regret your actions? Riker looked straight at Marcus. I regret not walking away. Marcus held his gaze, unreadable. So do I. When the hearing adjourned, the verdict wasn't immediate. The board announced a 48-hour deliberation. Cameras surged forward as the officials filed out. Outside, the plaza was flooded again. Protesters, reporters, and police lined shoulder to the summer air buzzed with chants. No more cover. Marcus descended the steps slowly, flashes lighting his face. A reporter shouted, Mayor Hale, do you believe justice will be served? He stopped. Justice doesn't wait for permission. Another voice. Are you declaring war on the department? He looked past the sea of cameras, past the flashing lights, toward the city skyline. No, he said quietly. I'm declaring honesty. He stepped into the car. As the motorcade pulled away, Dana glanced at him. You know they'll fight back harder now. Marcus stared out the window. Good, they're running out of places to hide. Outside, the city pulsed with divided hearts and open wounds, a storm without center. Circling a single truth, the system was cracking, and daylight was bleeding through. The verdict didn't come in 48 hours, it came in silence. For 3 days, the city waited, televisions flickering through endless speculation, social feeds erupting with hashtags that burned and vanished like sparks. Inside City Hall, the atmosphere thickened into something wordless, waiting disguised as work. When the board finally spoke, it was injustice. Officer Trent Riker cleared of misconduct due to insufficient evidence. Chief Raymond Torres reassigned pending review. No admission, no accountability, just rearrangement. Marcus read the statement twice. The words tasted like iron. Dana dropped the printed memo on his desk. They buried it again. Different hole, same shovel. He didn't look up. Of course they did. You could appeal to the governor. Already tried. She sighed, sitting opposite him. So this is it. Marcus's eyes were flat. No, this is the part where they think they've won. By noon, the smear campaign was back in motion. Anonymous leaks filled news feeds, edited clips, selective transcripts, headlines reading Mayor Hale's reckless leadership endangers city stability. The same outlets that had once defended him now questioned his fitness for office. At home, Angela refused interviews, but the cameras camped outside their gate didn't care. Their son's photo appeared online again, blurred, but recognizable. Inside the kitchen, Angela stood by the window, arms crossed. They'll never let you rest, Marcus. They'll turn every victory into a liability. He closed the fridge door quietly. Then I'll stop calling them victories. She turned, voice trembling with fatigue. You can't win a war against people who write the rules. Marcus faced her. Then I'll rewrite them. Her eyes glistened. At what cost? He didn't answer that night. His phone lit up with a message from Lena Ortiz. Meet me, urgent. They met in a deserted parking structure downtown. The air smelled of oil and rain. Lena stood beside her car, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. They've started feeding stories to my editor, she said, accusing me of fabricating the whistleblower footage. They're threatening to subpoena my sources. Can they? They can try, but that's not why I called. She handed him an envelope. This came from an internal audit, unsigned, no sender. It proves Torres approved falsified reports from multiple officers. There's a pattern. Marcus opened it, eyes scanning the signatures, the timestamps, the chain of command. This could reopen everything. It could destroy you too, she said. The timing will look desperate, like revenge. He folded the papers carefully. Then, I'll make sure it looks like truth. Lena stared at him. You don't look like a man chasing victory. I'm not. His voice was quiet, steady. I'm chasing closure. Back at City Hall, Dana was waiting with red eyes and a trembling cup of coffee. You shouldn't be here. This late, she said. I wasn't finished. Neither are they. She placed her phone on the desk. A message from a city council member blinking on screen. Withdraw reform, proposal, or face censure. Marcus gave a faint, humorless smile. They're scared. They're preparing to remove you. Then they'll have to do it in daylight. She stared at him. You're not listening. They have the votes. They'll strip your power before you can act. He looked out the window toward the city lights scattered across the skyline like uncertain stars. Then it's time for one last move. The next morning, Marcus walked into city council chambers carrying the envelope Lena had given him. The room buzzed with expectation, cameras poised, staff whispering. He placed the envelope on the clerk's table and addressed the council. Contained here are falsified internal reports authorized by Chief Torres. If you continue to protect corruption, you're not governing, you're complicit. The chair banged the gavel. Mr. Mayor, this session is for fiscal review. Marcus's voice overrode her. Review this. A city that punishes truth has no future. Murmurs exploded. Reporters leaned forward. One councilman shouted, "This is out of order." Marcus met his gaze. So is systemic racism. The cameras caught every word. He turned, leaving the envelope on the desk, and walked out to a wall of flashes and stunned silence. That evening, his resignation letter trended online before he'd even signed it. Dana found him sitting alone in his office. You're stepping down. He looked up. They want control more than justice. Let them have control. I'll keep justice. Her eyes brimmed. You did what no one else would. He nodded once. And now someone else will. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. Not a storm yet, but a warning. Dawn broke in fragments. Streaks of bruised orange slicing through the skyline. The city hadn't slept. News anchors spoke in tight, hurried voices. Mayor Hale resigns amid escalating police scandal. But between their words, something else pulsed, disbelief turning into defiance. At 6 a.m., Lena Ortiz uploaded the documents Marcus had given her, not just the signed audits, everything. Memos, falsified logs, concealed complaint forms. Within an hour, the files spread across the internet under one headline, The Cover-Up. By 9, the police headquarters was barricaded. Protesters filled the plaza, chanting his name, demanding arrests. The mayor was gone, but his voice echoed through every speaker. Marcus watched from his living room. Coffee, cooling beside him. Angela sat across the room, scrolling through her phone in silence. "They're calling it the Hale Papers," she said finally. He didn't respond. "They're saying you planned this before resigning." "Maybe I did," he said quietly. She set the phone down. "They'll come after you now." "They already did." Angela stood, crossing to the window. Outside, a helicopter circled over downtown. "So, what happens next?" He looked at her, tired but resolute. "I stopped being the story." At City Hall, chaos had turned administrative. Interim officials scrambled to contain the fallout. Carl Dempsey hadn't been seen since morning. Chief Torres was escorted out under protective custody. Officer Riker's statement, leaked minutes later, a panicked attempt at justification that only deepened the wound. "I was following orders," he'd written. The phrase ricocheted through the public sphere like shrapnel. By midday, Lena's story dominated every network. She stood on the courthouse steps, speaking into a sea of microphones. These documents confirm what whistleblowers tried to expose for years: a coordinated effort to suppress misconduct, falsify data, and silence victims. "This is not the failure of one officer, it is the architecture of impunity." A reporter shouted, "Where is Marcus Hale now?" Lena hesitated. "I think he's where he's always been, with the people who still believe truth matters." That evening, Dana visited Marcus's home. She didn't knock. Angela opened the door before she could. "He's in the backyard," Angela said. "Hasn't said much." Marcus was sitting on the steps, watching the rain begin to fall. Soft, deliberate, cleansing. Dana sat beside him. "They're reopening every case tied to Torres. Riker's been suspended. Internal Affairs is collapsing under its own files." He nodded. "It's not enough, but it's a start." She looked at him. "You knew releasing those papers would end your career." "It wasn't a career anymore. It was a cage." Dana exhaled slowly. "They're calling you a hero." He turned to her, a faint, weary smile. "Heroes don't get tired like this." Across town, the police union held an emergency press conference. Dempsey appeared at last, pale, sweating, his composure cracking under camera lights. "These allegations," he stammered, "are being reviewed internally." The mayor acted recklessly, compromising due process. A reporter interrupted. "Are you denying the document's authenticity?" Dempsey froze. No comment. The broadcast cut to Lena's footage of the same memos bearing his digital signature. By nightfall, his resignation letter was public. Marcus's phone buzzed with messages he didn't answer. Journalists, allies, even the governor. None of them mattered. Months passed. The city that once whispered now spoke in full voice. Murals appeared first, painted under bridges, across courthouse walls, on abandoned police substations. Faces of the fallen. Words like accountability, truth, and Hole. They weren't tributes. They were markers, reminders that silence had a cost. Marcus watched from afar. He didn't return for ceremonies or interviews. The mayor's office now belonged to someone else, a cautious reformer who owed her platform to his ruin. He didn't mind. He'd done his part. The rest was survival. The first letter came from Lena. They're convicting Torres. 3 counts of falsification, obstruction, and perjury. He tried to blame Riker, but the files were too clean. Riker pled guilty and flipped. Dempsey's lawyers are abandoning him. "It's a bloodletting, Marcus. You opened the artery." He read it twice, folded it neatly, and placed it in a drawer beside his badge. The one he'd worn years ago before politics. It wasn't nostalgia. It was anatomy, the organ of duty, dissected, labeled, understood. Some nights he dreamed of the street, the same crosswalk, the same hand, shoving him into daylight. But now, in the dream, he didn't fall. He stood there, unflinching, as the city around him turned to glass. He'd wake with his heart steady, not racing. The trauma had settled into rhythm, a scar, not an open wound. Dana called one evening from City Hall. The line cracked with static. "They want to name the new transparency bill after you," she said. He didn't respond. "They're calling it the Hale Act." "Don't." She hesitated. "You earned it." "No," he said. "I broke it. Let them build something new, not worship the wreckage." The silence on the other end was soft, grateful. "You still sound like the mayor." "I stopped being that the day they learned my name." Angela had grown quieter, more grounded. Their son was back in school, old enough now to understand the shadows that followed their family's name. One night, he asked, "Dad, why do people on the news call you brave?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Because they don't know the difference between brave and tired." The boy frowned. "But you did the right thing." right? I did what was left to do. The boy thought about that, nodded slowly, and went back to his homework. Angela watched from the kitchen doorway. You think he'll hate the city someday? He'll question it, Marcus said. That's enough. Lena's second letter arrived with a photograph. The protest memorial. Thousands gathered as the verdicts were read aloud. Beneath the image, a handwritten note. You didn't lose, Marcus. You changed the language. He stared at the photo for a long time. The crowd's faces were blurred by distance, but their posture said everything upright, unafraid. He realized then that justice wasn't about winning. It was about weight who carried it, and who refused to anymore. Weeks later, the city council released its final report. Pages of new regulations, oversight protocols, ethics reforms. The press called it the reconstruction. In a quiet coastal cafe, Marcus read the article on a borrowed newspaper. A waitress recognized him but said nothing. She just refilled his cup and left a small smile on the table beside it. He stayed until closing, listening to the surf crash against the pylons beneath the pier. That night, Lena called. You disappeared, she said. I'm where I'm supposed to be. You don't sound relieved. Relief's for people who survived something clean. She paused. Then what's this? Continuance? She exhaled. The city misses you. It doesn't need me anymore. Before hanging up, she said quietly, You're wrong. It just learned to listen. He didn't answer. The next morning, Marcus went walking along the shoreline, where the wind carried the faint echo of protest chants from downtown, miles away. Each wave pulled away fragments of sand, erasing footprints, rewriting edges. The horizon didn't change, endless, indifferent. But honest, he thought of all the men who had hidden behind uniforms and ranks, believing they'd never be seen. And he thought of every citizen who'd been told to lower their voice. Move along, accept apology as justice. The system had cracked open, not shattered, not yet, but open enough for light. That was enough. He stopped by a weathered bench facing the sea. Someone had carved words into the wood, probably a stranger. Truth breaks before it builds. He traced the letters with his finger, slow, deliberate. Angela's voice came from behind him. You're miles away again. He turned, smiled faintly. No, just looking forward. She sat beside him, laying her head on his shoulder. Do you miss it? The noise, the fight? He shook his head. No, I miss believing it could be fixed quietly. They watched the horizon together until the light shifted, gold softening into blue. When they rose to leave, Marcus took one last look at the water.